Say what? Hey guys, welcome to HipHughes History. In this next few minutes, we're going to explain a really important question, which is, what did the Emancipation Proclamation do? And I think you know. I can even hear you saying it right now.
The Emancipation Proclamation? That freed all the slaves.
Wrong! The Emancipation Proclamation did not free all the slaves. So, let's see if we can't get all that historical inaccuracies out of your head. And I'm going to go get an instrument to do that. Let's do it right now. I'm going to use the sanctity of marriage. No, I'm just joking. I'm not going to do that. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued really in the midst of the Civil War by Abraham Lincoln. And I think that partially true, yes. It did free some slaves, at least kind of hypothetically. But let's kind of break it down and really explain maybe the historical and political reasons for the emancipation. The Emancipation Proclamation was issued at a very kind of tense point in the war. And if you know anything about history, you know that the war really is a states' rights war. It's a war about nullification. It's a war about the 10th Amendment. It's a war about federalism and the power between the federal government and the states. Even, stretching back to 1820 with the Missouri Compromise, we see that really the issue is the expansion of slavery, if anything to do with slavery. And as I've taught this before, I've always kind of taught the concept of abolitionism as being very important to the Civil War, but kind of being a red herring for what the true intentions of the federal government were. Abraham Lincoln was originally in, 1854, a member of the Free Soil Party. And the Free Soil Party, yes, was against the expansion of slavery, but as much as for economic reasons as human rights reasons. And when Lincoln ran for Illinois Senate seat against Stephen Douglas, he would give varying kind of different speeches on slavery, depending on the accent and the parts of Illinois he was. Yeah, I mean, if he was in southern Illinois, he wouldn't say that he was for slavery, but he would clamor about, not believing in the equality of the races, and that he had no intentions of eliminating slavery where it resided as kind of an economic system in the South. So really, the federal government and the Republican Party wasn't really founded on abolitionism, but rather free land, economic for small businesses and laborers to manifest destiny themselves out west and to have opportunity, and kind of a laissez-faire kind of idea in economics that the government should just allow businesses and free labor to grow. And of course, the Republican Party also is big business, so they believe in big government back then. Subsidies to railroad companies and high tariffs to protect U.S. manufacturers. What am I doing? The Emancipation Proclamation. So at the time that the Republican Party under Lincoln issued the Emancipation, what was occurring in international affairs was that Europe, and specifically France, was on the verge of recognizing the South and coming to its aid. And that would have been bad. Because really the North wasn't really doing that well until, say, Gettysburg in 1863. So really the Emancipation Proclamation was meant to turn the issue of the war, to turn the issue of war from one being fought about some kind of political ideology about states' rights and federalism to the idea that we were fighting to free the slaves. But what slaves were freed in the Emancipation? Not all of them, I dare say. Not all of them. No. I'm going to go tell you right now which ones were. You better know about border states. Border states are kind of a phenomenon of the Civil War in being that they are slave states, and see if I can nail them. I know Maryland, Kentucky, maybe Missouri, and the newly formed state of West Virginia. These are slave states. These are states where slavery is legal, but they are held inside the Union by Lincoln, really by him denying habeas corpus and kind of locking anybody who might have been a rebel up. So I think one of the ideas is to understand is that slaves and border state slaves, they were not freed by the Emancipation. It specifically said in states that were rebelling against the Union. So any slave in those states that could read and would get the paper in the morning the day after the Emancipation, and they'd start reading it and they'd start doing, you know what this is? This is the happy dance, the happy free dance. Well, stop dancing, because they weren't free. I've always kind of thought in my head, really, nobody was freed by the Emancipation as a means of practicality. If you were in the South, what are you going to do? Hey, master, I'm free. I'll be leaving. I don't think so. And if you were in the North, you were free already. And if you were in the border states, you wasn't freeze. So we'll learn more about Lincoln and his attitudes against slavery, and not for slavery, but really the economic kind of twinges about what he believed in about slavery. And I think it's important to recognize that Lincoln is not for slavery. I'm not arguing that at all. He, I think in his heart, is an abolitionist. And I'll use a quick analogy and get the hell out of Dodge here. But I always compare him to Obama. When I think about Obama and gay marriage, Obama taught constitutional law. He understands the 14th Amendment, whether or not you think he's a Muslim. But nevertheless, he understands the Constitution. And I think he understands that the 14th Amendment, fundamentally, on a practical level, really is being violated with marriage laws that deny homosexuals, gay people, the right to marry. You could think whatever you want. You might have just fallen out of your seat. But nevertheless, as a constitutional matter, it says no state shall deny its citizens equal protection under the law. And, forget the religious issue of gay marriage. It's a state-sanctioned license that comes with benefits on a state and federal level. Tax breaks, Social Security benefits, all kind of economic variables. So when people make that argument, and I'm trying not to get political, but it is a political argument, and say, well, marriage is against the Bible. And you don't have to have a Southern accent to believe that. I don't believe so. But when people make that argument, I believe they're making it on a religious ground. And nobody, I think, is saying that the church is being forced to issue gay marriage licenses. It's the state. It's the state license that matters at the end of the day. So I think, back to Obama, that Obama's got to believe in gay marriage. I'm sorry, shoot me, go ahead, write bad letters, say bad things about Mr. Hughes. But I think that he thinks that. But as a political matter, electorally, I don't think that he's willing to take that risk. He's a politician. All politicians are politicians, and they have to get elected. So whether it's Lincoln kind of playing the game about slavery, getting elected to the presidency, but first failing for the Senate seat in Illinois, or whether it's Obama trying to keep maybe African Americans excited. African Americans demographically are high churchgoers, and churchgoers are more aligned with being against gay marriage. So he doesn't want to, pardon the French, but piss them off. And the same would go true for, say, blue-collar workers. Blue-collar workers in the western hills of Pennsylvania. They economically are probably attracted to maybe union ideas or pro-democratic policies when it comes to regulating work safety or whatever. You can get mad at me, but if you talk about gay marriage, you're in big trouble. So I think that, hopefully you learned a couple things in this lecture. I was hoping that you learned that the Emancipation Proclamation did not really intend to free all of the slaves, but change the aim of the war, keep the French away and keep them over there because they would never fight for slavery. What was that? It's like French to Russian. But nevertheless, that it really was to change the aims about the war. And number two, if you have that border state example, you have kind of proof positive information there that, the emancipation wasn't intended to free all the slaves, but rather it's holding on to that kind of political idea about how do we win the war. And then later down the road, we can talk about Reconstruction and radical Reconstruction and Jim Crow and the Compromise of 1877, and I could go on forever. So, see you later. All right. Bye, Bob. Giving politics a good licking.